There's a thing, you know, in recovery. There's another person coming. Hey, bro, how are you? Hey, take a seat. And, yeah. That points out a fundamental flaw, F-L-A-W.
What?
Where in AA they have a statement out of many. One of them is, you know, we manufacture our own misery. See, that's not true.
No?
No, it isn't true.
How could it be?
We sort of like, we're the factory, the facility has been taken over, and that which is taken over the facility is manufacturing misery through it.
Yeah.
But if you had something else take you over, let's call it a higher power or whatever, then it would be manufacturing, let's say, compassion or inclusiveness or, yes, far-sightedness. The system, this event has a spectrum of expression, yeah? And so the root of the dilemma that non-duality, I hope, addresses is the idea that lazy sense of ownership. So yeah, misery, I'm experiencing misery, or there's let's try not to use the language, there's an experiencing of misery, but immediately it gets translated into I'm producing misery, or someone's producing it on me. Yes? It's always a sense of somehow having ownership of it or being done to by it. Yeah? That's one of the fundamental little aberrations, yeah? So we try to share it here, which is what's happening is being claimed. There's a pill, someone's pills just dropped out.
Shiny medicine.
There's
Did you want your...
it's a walking virus, don't pick it up. It's got legs now.
Oh, it's not.
So the idea of, okay, so there's an experience happening, it must be mine. Yeah, this sense of ownership. So when there's a sense of fear or anxiety, it's cast as your anxiety. Yes? And it's just lazily done all day. And basically, like in recovery, they have a thing called resentments, where everyone has them, which is a re-feeling of a slight, either a seeming slight or a historical slight or a fear of being slighted. So there's a resentment. You feel as if it already happened in a sense, yes? So a resentment is different than my resentment. My resentment may have a 40-year shelf life. Our resentment usually comes and goes. It doesn't really sustain itself. It's the owning of the resentment that gives its legs, yes? So anxiety is the same thing. Anxiety, yeah, usually has a thing, but it doesn't have a long life, shelf life. But my anxiety, see, the claiming of the anxiety lengthens it, gives it more oomph, more time, yeah? So to the point where you'll become an anxious person. Yeah. It's incredible, really. So there's anxiety, the anxiety is claimed, and it reaches a point where you now become an anxious person. Yeah? Now there's an experience of anxiety, and then there's implied that there's a person experiencing that anxiety, yeah? And then it goes to extreme, that person is an anxious person. Yeah? That person is a resentful person. So basically, the claiming of these expressions can become a noun, so to speak. Now you're really fucked, yeah? Aren't you? Really? Because in a way, it's almost like your responsibility now is to be anxious. You know what I mean? I'm an anxious person, you know? It's on me, I've got to be anxious. If they're not anxious, I'll just carry the load. I remember I knew a lady, she worried so much, and I would try to trick her by talking about a topic that had nothing to do with her, and it would take about, I'd watch it, it would take about a half a second for her to pertain it to herself. So I'd be talking about deers in Australia. It says, oh, the deers are coming into my yard. You know what I mean? I would try to like speak about Mars, and she would bring it to now. Yeah. So I figured, know what I'm going to do? She was like the Kali of worry. I was going to have people send all their worries to her, yeah, and data, and then when they of course we would be worried, is she dealing with them? I said, don't worry, she's on it. Just chill out, she'll fucking worry it to death, yeah, and we'll get back to you in about a week. So she could just suck all that shit in and make it hers, yes? Hopefully with a whoop, but that was my little dream. But see, this is what's going on. So if you're the manufacturing of misery, then it's up to you to stop manufacturing misery, yeah? And this is the dilemma, how the system catches us. So now you set off to stop manufacturing misery, which manufactures misery.
Mm-hmm.
This is the dilemma that people are missing.
Or it manufactures something worse than misery.
Well, yes. So exactly. So the idea of what non-duality is trying to point out as a thing is, if you have interest in being free, that interest is gonna fuck it up, basically, yeah. And so when you finally, that dawns on you, and then you try to start losing interest, that's also an interest in, yes? So you can't get out based on the idea that you could be in. So and it was funny, Amelia was thinking of trying to translate one of the books we did into Italian, and someone has translated a lot of stuff in Italian, and she was reading one of them, and it's what we say all the time, which is off open source, but you know, I was a little bit prideful. She said, it says, you can't get out of an imaginary place. I said, fuck, I think we say that. Yeah, you can't get out of an imaginary place. This is the dilemma. The reality of things is never really looked at. So obviously I want to get out of that, but you have to realize you're wanting to get out of it is the bigger end of it, yeah? It's not personal, it's just how it works. It's how the thing works. If you have interest, if you take a 2-year course on self-centeredness, that could be seen as obsession with self, yeah? So your desire to get out of self is what's fueling the idea that you're in self. So how can we lose interest without having interest in losing interest? Yeah. So when someone's fucked up today and comes here and they're looking, something in them is listening to non-duality as a way out of what they're feeling like. Yeah. They want it like a super fast, skillful means. So they'll say, well, everything is just seemingly so nothing's really happening, but it's not working, yeah? Because the sense of them is trying to get out of the sense of them. And it's using a new tool called non-duality. And non-duality is probably one of the worst tools to use because it just doesn't fucking work. I mean, if you upset somebody and you say, well, there's no Paul to upset you, the person's gonna say, fuck you. And then if you're in a community like recovery and you go out and use, and then you wanna tell it, well, it just was seemingly, it looks like I seemingly went out and used. They're gonna say, no, you fucking went out and used. They're not holding it as seemingly so. Yeah? You may be, but they're not. So the action figure is trying to peddle like a get out of in jail free card, but people who are in jail aren't buying it. So the idea is just to see these fundamental quirks and the failedness of the logic that we're relying on. Yeah, and don't worry about, well, is there a we that's relying on it? It doesn't matter, there's a reliance on it. Yeah? A reliance on it doesn't mean there's a you that's relying on it. There's a reliance on it. We're relying on perceptions. We're relying on memories. We're relying on thought systems. We're relying on beliefs. We're relying on a lot of shit all day. The whole place is based on assumptions. It's truly, really, not as a way out, but as a clear view, it's truly all seemingly so. It's all appearing to be so to us. And it can go to such extremes in life that you can get a hint that something's up. So like, if the worst thing that ever happened to you, let's say 20 years ago, has been the worst thing that ever happened for 20 years, yeah? And you've made it an altar, and you know, it's been the excuse for a lot of other shit not working, and it's like the big fucking thing. And then you have a change of mind and you see it as the best thing that ever happened to you. You've got to question something, don't you? I mean, how could the worst thing transform itself into the best thing? It couldn't. It wasn't the worst thing, and it ain't the best thing. It's based on how you're seeing it, yeah? It's all, everything, all things are based on how we're seeing it. Yeah.
Is there a goodness to that shift, though? Like, my anger at the virus thing turned around like in an instant, and I suddenly saw how good it is that this is happening. Is there any difference? Is there any, like, I mean, it feels more pleasant, obviously.
Well, yeah, there's a difference to you, but is there any difference? No, and there's a difference to you.
It feels more than that, though, like a bunch of us have done it all at once.
It still doesn't mean anything, and it means it means a lot to the bunch of us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it essentially is the same either side of it. And in essence, in the flip.
Ultimately, but not to us.
Right.
To us, it doesn't feel, oh, it's the same. No, we rather have it one way more than the other. Yeah. Now, they're going at the same time. One is a timeless condition, which you would say is the real condition.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about timeless, it's just no time. And then there's the conditions in time, which are based on how we're viewing things, and that has, by its effects, has a reality. Yeah. It's not real, but by its effects, it produces a momentary reality. I'm talking exactly about this, because there's a lot of mix-up where the action figure wants to use the timelessness to sort of fucking get out of the time constraints, yeah? It doesn't work unless it works, but it will never work as you or through you or by you.
Right.
You may observe that it's working, but it will be seen as having nothing to do with you. That's basically the clear observation. Hey, yeah, it's making a whole lot of sense, but it has nothing to do with you. Yeah. So I lost interest in all that, movements and stuff. I could care less, because a lot of people call me wanting to have the absoluteness of non-duality as the determining factor here, and it isn't. Here, the dreaming is the determining factor, yeah? Here is, you can't, you know, if, I get people, used to, not anymore, but people would call me and they had a breakup with a girlfriend, and they were all screwed up, but they wouldn't fucking admit it. They'd say, well, she left me, but there's no she to leave me, and she'd go through this whole arcane fucking mental yoga posture of, you know, there's no one there. And basically all they needed was a big cry, you know, and it would take 15 minutes when they, there's no one there, there's no one that she actually left, and like this. Fucking get to it, bro. Oh, I'm just feeling terrible. Far out. Yeah. Now, is there anyone feeling terrible? No. But is there feeling terrible? Yes. Yeah.
Why is that so hard to grasp?
I do not know why. But
oh man.
Yes. There's feeling terrible, but there's no one who's feeling terrible. People believe because they believe it's so profound, their seeming presence, that their absence would be incredibly profound. So they believe if their absence of as what's thinking is presence wasn't here, it would be fucking great. Yeah? No. It's just what happens. Yeah? There's meaning given, there's meaning given, there's meaning given. And is there any meaning? No. Yet you can't sometimes use that in the commerce of meanings coming and going. It doesn't fucking work. That's why people leave non-duality, because they're here in a certain, they're at the wrong store shopping for a skillful means. And it's not a skillful means. It isn't. Because if there's an inch of wanting to change something, your wanting to change something is going to reinforce it. So you got to be chilled. You just have to have a sober assessment that you're screwed. Let's not use the word. In a way that I can't use what I've been using to find what I already am. It's just impossible. Yes? Now, will it get better if I continue to do that over time? Probably, because the dreaming is finite and that which is dreaming isn't. So that which is dreaming will dream itself out of here, but yeah, it's going to be sometimes very incremental, very, very slow. Or you can lose interest on all that and truly lose interest in it, and then there's a freedom, not from being liberated, but being free from the need to be liberated. Because what wants liberation really needs to be liberated, and it can't be. It really does. It wants to be liberated, but it can't entertain being liberated in any other way that it would be the one who is liberated. It can't. That's the system. The system has a programming, and if you get to near the root of it, the programming is basically, it runs into a fault of the system, which is self can't get out of self, but it can never get that. So it tries to get out of self, let's say reading, that didn't work too much. Drinking, no. Spirituality, no. Back to drinking, let's go. Now ceremonies, whatever. But it's basically trying to get out of self as self. And it doesn't, the system, it's built that way, yet it can't get that way. Yeah? So you have to see, you have to see the failure of the system. That's how it finally succeeds for us, is you see it's completely failed. I'm not going to be able to use what I am to find what I am, because it's not there to be found. It's here completely. Yeah? So under any kind of mistaken identity, I suddenly become, instead of what's looking, I become what's looking for. And it ultimately usually ends up to that what's looking for starts looking for what's looking. And that's the spiritual world. Yeah, here, the spiritual business world is what's looking has now got to the point, because things have failed it, relationships, money, blah, blah. You see people share a lot. All that money doesn't mean anything, but they're not giving any of it away, usually. Oh, it doesn't mean a damn thing. Okay, well, kick down. No, of course it does. It means something. It fucking means something here. Yeah? So, this idea, so what's looking, being used to look for itself, under the guise of the you that's looking for, will end up to be looking for what's looking. Yeah? So the what's looking, under the guise of being the you that's looking for, will ultimately end up looking for what's looking. Using what's looking to look for itself as an idea, a concept, or whatever. Yeah? That's the fundamental Chinese thumb torture. Yeah? Then it gets sophisticated, but any little movement tightens the thing. You can't get out because, in a sense, you can't get out because you're really not in. It's not like you can't get out because it's unescapable. It's unescapable because you're not in it. You'd have to be in it for it to become escapable. You're not really in it. That's the whole thing. It can seem like you're in it. It's been for years, but years. It's so everything can seem like it's so, but can't be so because there is a being so that is not infected by any of the viruses of what's not so. It doesn't have to take precautions to get it so it doesn't get infected by what's no. It's clearly in the vision of what's not so from what's so. There's no confusion whatsoever. The confusion comes when what's so starts dreaming of objects and things and becomes identified as the dreamt. And now it's appearing to what's so that it's something else for maybe 30 years, 70 years, 90 years. And from this move, the ball game changes because now you're looking at everything from here, not from here. Yeah? So from here, everything seems fucking real to the point it's getting to be a real drag. All right, I hear this incredible novel idea, non-duality. The mental state says, how can I get an advantage of this? All right, let me well, there's no so. I don't have to do any steps in recovery. There's no so. Well, you'll be a drunken non-dualist. In a few years. So all your little mental shenanigans don't work because you're trying to be what you are in what you're not. Just fucking see what you're not from what you are. What you're not has maybe 90 years of breath. It's going to breathe in and out. Shit's going to happen. Meetings are going to be given. Things are going to occur. All of that's going to be happening. Yet, there's that which is always available at all times, right? Where what you're not is. Not based on what you're not's condition, it's understanding, none of it. It's based on fact. You are that. It doesn't matter. I haven't seemed to have been that for 50 years. 50 years doesn't make it so more than 50 seconds. Yeah? Everything is appearing to be so to what's so. Yeah? When what's so loses interest in shit appearing a certain way, they stop appearing that way. So now your enemies become your best friend, your fucking pursuit of money, you fucking give it up, you have no idea. And then of course the head will write a narrative, oh, why, wah, ba, ba, ba. But basically, you're an afterthought. The idea of Paul as a narrative is an afterthought. Life is happening, and then the narrative is trying to run next to it. And fucking make it a parallel fucking narration. And the interest and attention of this system gets caught up into that narration. Now, all the interest and attention of what we are does not get caught up there. You're always inherently free, but not as Paul, from Paul. So, and what's the posture of that? Of loss of interest in Paul. Not a loss of interest in moment to moment, on a broad level. You just lose interest in the story of Paul. Like you're not checking in every 5 minutes to see how Paul's doing. Basically, you're not throwing up. You can still walk. Fuck it. Yeah, let's go to the cafe. And all the old ideas that would like to keep you confined and arthritic, you're able to walk through it because you see that's all they are. They're ideas, yeah. Or not walk through it. It's fine. It's fine to be defined as what you're not. Yeah. You want to be a boundless what you're not, and you're limited completely. You are a boundless of what you are. Yeah. So, I love these meetings because I had a little itch when I used to go to satsangs. I felt something was afoot. I couldn't put my finger on it. But then it came to pass, I could. Something put its finger on it. And I read these statements from Ramana Maharshi, and I think he wrote once in his own dialect, but most of his teachings have been written by other people. Yeah. So you'd have all these different writers, but they'd have a concurring theme in most of them. And one of the ways it was stated was the greatest mystery here is reality wanting to attain reality. The other one is the one I use a lot because I haven't read that much, which is the presupposing of this non-existent thing, what to be existing, really, and then that wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing. That's the drive, yeah. If that's the case, he's not saying this is the case, he's saying if that's the case, because we, as what we are in the dreaming, have to fucking put the foot into the shoe and find out it fits. Just like an alcoholic can be told he's an alcoholic, but they have to find out for themselves for something to shift. It doesn't matter if 8,000 people that know that alcoholic want them not to be an alcoholic. They have fucking no interest in any of that. The diagnosis has to be an experience, like they know they're finally screwed, and then suddenly a possibility appears, yeah? Well, here in a weird way, yeah? The presupposing the non-existent thing. To me, I thought the word pre was the ingredient of time in it. Yeah, because in a supposing and assuming, I live under a lot of assumptions. I always use this example. My girlfriend and I drive a lot of times assuming certain places are open, and then we find out they're not when we finally pull up. Instead of calling ahead of time, we go through this fucking ritual. I say, maybe we should call. No, it's open, we drive, it's not open. You know, so basically, the whole activity of going there was based on an assumption. Well, that's what spirituality quite a lot is. Really, it's hugely based, and that assumption I feel is worthy to be questioned. Yeah. So the assumption, he says, all right, if that's the case, if there's this presupposing of this non-existent thing. So if you look at it second by second, what's the presupposing? The presupposing is there's something happening called living, yeah, verbing, and then the mental state reacts to that and claims the verbing to imply a noun. That's what it does. So the doing is used to imply the doer. And then suddenly, so if you see it as a moment-to-moment process, the doing is what's happening, right? The coming to the conclusion that the doing must mean there's a doer is produced after. So the verbing is occurring, then the idea of being the doer. But then the presupposing this is so beautiful in a way. So the supposing of it now, at this point, presupposes itself to be before. So you feel like a historical doer. Mm-hmm. Every momentary doing that's being claimed, once it's claimed, produces a sense of being the historical doer, and there's the memories and everything else to support that fucking story. Yeah? So this is how ass backwards it is. This place is verbing, manifesting. Yeah, like in some Buddhism they call the essence of mind is emptiness. Yeah, the nature of mind is reflective. Yeah, and then the manifestation of mind is energy. What is this? This is dreaming. Yeah. So mind's manifesting, dreaming, minding, I wouldn't even say mind, whatever it is, yeah? And now in the dreaming, a mental state arises and claims the verbing to imply a noun. Now, it's very clear, you can see this. You see that seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching is definitely way before Paul being the seer, the hearer, the feeler, the taster, the toucher. It's just fucking obvious. You can see it in slow time. You can see, because the time seems to rush by, but you can time, just like when you get into a car accident sometimes, everything slows up. And you're sitting there like fiddling at things until you hit the fucking barrier. You know, what's going on for fucking ever? When am I gonna know what happened? The car's spinning, yes? So time obviously is a construct. So you can see it slow time, and you can see the verbing, the seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. I'm not in dispute with that. That's what's going on, yeah? Is occurring, but say before, and then there's the idea that it implies you comes after. Now, wouldn't you think that the before must be more of what you are than the after? if you're thinking you're the end all and be all, yet you come after something, I would be interested in what is that which is before. So I did, and then I realized that interest isn't helping any. So I had to go, how do I fucking lose interest in being interested? I can't get out of this fucking thing. Yeah? Oh, maybe I'm not in it. What? Oh yeah, maybe I'm not in it. I don't need a more subtle way to get out. Just maybe, it sounds crazy, but maybe I'm actually not in it. And then, okay, let's sit there for a while. The boogeyman didn't appear. The fucking foot of God didn't squish me. I was just like, wow. So all that wanting to get out was the biggest driver of being in. Ooh, wait a minute. So it showed me in a flash, I swear, a flash. Years and years of basically the thematic description of Paul. Paul has been trying to get out of Paul since he's about 6 years old. Sometimes with a big flurry, sometimes or like a simmering, but there was always a drive for Paul to fucking get out of Paul. Yeah? Because Paul was the problem to Paul. And so I gave it a good shot. I would say my most complete 100% shot was drug addiction. I have a lot of holes in the spiritual resume, but drug addiction, I was a perfect drug addict. I would do anything for it. I loved it. Loved shooting coke. I was willing to die, and I put myself in a lot of death situations, overdosing with the hopes that I would get a glimpse of life without Paul as Paul. That failed miserably, or actually successfully. And then so I started going along with this idea. Wait a minute. So the great wisdom of no escape. Some people write 300 pages of it. But me is like, you can't escape from an imaginary place. That's the great wisdom of no escape. Yeah? The greatest escape here is no escape. If there's no effort to get out, you'll question if you're in. And if you question what you're in, you'll see that which completely believes it's in isn't you. Yeah? And you'll waste no fucking time trying to convince that which is the center of this inness to try to get out of it. You just lose interest in it. Yeah? You lose interest. Paul has enough interest to make it another 10 years, maybe. 10 days could be. I don't know. It doesn't, you know what I mean? The interest is definitely waning. Yeah? As it should be, I feel. I don't think, as it should be. I don't think, I just think it has enough to make it to the finish line, whatever. And but it's being the chariot of the gods. No, so I'll be there in heaven. No, I realize it's a finite expression, and it's going to come to an end, and it's ended many times in this life. When I have come back, and I really realized out of that it's going to be like it never happened. When this passes away to this, whatever this is, it will be like it never happened. Nothing. Yeah, this was like a fleeting appearance on this huge infinite screen. It's not a big, okay. That's a special, no, it's just a blip, Nothing right or wrong with it. I think it's great here to express, and beauty is unbelievable. And to observe and to get the joy as this, to be a purpose, and maybe, have a drive in this life and complete it the best way you could. So I feel like we've done our job. And it was so weird because when I pass away, the videos will still be going. So you'll really still have the best of Paul Hedderman. You will. So basically, on that level, the thing's pretty okay. And it attempted to communicate something that I thought is already pronounced in all of us. I don't think it needs to be choired or repeated or anything. I think we need to be invited. Yeah, invited to these ideas, and then see how they play out. If they fit, you wear them. And they're gonna, I mean, you can be completely weaned off of things here, completely weaned off, without going through a detox or a cold turkey. You can be weaned off of a lot of the other addictions that demand relief and turn into the addictions of this place. I mean, the mental addictions. You can be weaned off of them without a giant fucking, detox. You can. You'll just see the utter futility of trying to use what you are to find what you are. And you'll stop. And some people email me and they're on paths that are great and everything. I have no interest, I'm not in a race with another spiritual person. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I mean, if that's the success of it, I'm told completely successful, because I have no interest in what I would call spirituality. I don't. Just forget about it. My meager goals are very low, like a good sleep, nice pillow, good coffee after this. Really, I'm not shooting. I'm gonna fucking wake up. My boss, who cares? Why would you? I don't see the importance of gilding something that's gonna be buried in 10 years or 20 years. Yes, I might as well just sort of, I mean, it has its demands. I listen to some of them. Some of them are a little too much. And then fucking, just be used and try to share things that I know you. I know what you are. I do. When all these little dances are over, when there's a pause, it's obvious. We are all emperors with no clothes. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patching shit on, Yeah, just. And if your locale to peace and serenity it's always available right where you are at all times, you're in a pretty good location. Yeah. If there's a sense of contentment not derived from this place but expressed here, that's pretty good. If you can enjoy peace, not just the peace being available, but be able to enjoy it, where you've been weaned off of that constant moving sidewalk like at the airport. You've been weaned off of time as an inherent distraction, really. Time. Yeah, you can actually be here and just, see things, see birds and fucking snakes and everything else, see things, see the emotion in my cat's face. It's amazing, an emotive creature. Doesn't say a word, doesn't meow, but it's very expressive. All this stuff is, you wouldn't say, well, I'm on a journey. I'm not on that journey anymore. I remember I used to do all these practices, and this beautiful babe would be right there seeking me to go to bed. I said, no, I don't have time for that. What a fucking idiot, really. I was like, no, I can't. I've got to finish my form. It was insane. It was insane, really. I mean, life would be right in that way. No! I wanted to only be 2 knocks. All right, I couldn't recognize it. I couldn't recognize life bringing, whatever. So, yeah. Just look at the mind in your life while you're trucking around. The mind is the mental state's role. So problem, my problem, very different. Time, my time, extremely important. Fear, my fear, fucking. Anxiety, my anxiety. Resentment lasted for an hour or 2. My resentment, you've been watering it for 40 years. Yeah. We're not seeing something. We're not seeing the effects of the mental claiming. It's a good beginning. Instead of trying to leave without that being looked at, it's coming with you. Yeah? That's why after this, I started getting these downloads about talks. I never moved to any other topic because it was pointed out to me it's pointless. If you don't see what we're trying to share here, you're going to be looking from it. You're going to be looking from what I'm attempting to share. You're going to be looking from that dynamic. You're going to be thinking a shadow is fucking chasing you, yet you're casting the shadow. Yeah. So, see it. You can see it, and then the cards will be shuffled, but you won't be shuffling them, and then they'll play out, and you'll learn a lot, or you won't. It may not be necessary, or it may be. Who knows? Yeah. Some people have seed assignments, so they're supposed to share, so then they will. They'll get downloads. Others, they're just there, chilled out. It's fine. Yeah, I don't know. You'll be used somehow. This is a vehicle of expression. There's going to be things to express. Yeah, yeah. So see the my. The my isn't yours. That's the beauty of it. The my is like a foreign pathogen that infers you, implies you, insinuates you, and in that insinuation, what you and the problem get bound by the mind. Yeah? You and the fear get bound by the mind. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then see the thoughts aren't yours. The idea that they're yours comes from a thought of being the thinker. Yeah. So, the thinker the thought of being the thinker will try to study tons of shit about thoughts as almost a way of staying immune to any investigation. But there are thoughts, but there is no thinker. Because the thinker is an afterthought, yeah? It's a thought being claimed is used to imply the thinker. See? Thought, claim, thinker. Presupposed, thinker has all the thoughts. That's what happens. Yeah. Seeing, yes. Claimed, yeah. Implies the seer. Now you see tons of shit all day, but it's attributed to one seer. All day. All the seeing, all the day is attributed to one seer. You don't see it? Doing, all one doer. Feelings, tons of feelings. You know, I felt 800 different ways since 7:30 this morning. I did. Narrative reactions, this fucking sucks, blah, 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 da, da, da. It's just unbelievable combustion of agitation going on. I mean, thousands of different feelings. I go on a plane trip, fucking zillions of feelings. I can't believe people are just sitting there. I'm just like, I feel the blood moving, the pressure in the sinuses, my stomach getting pressured, my feet starting to swell, like this, what the fuck? Yeah. Now I know why it's nice to take a narrative, because it skips out on a lot of the shit. You know what I mean? You just get a basic fucking story. Sort of more like a deadening agent.
Right.
And because consciousness, being conscious of, is a fucking alive event. You're gonna feel thousands of waves all day. And the narrative, it's me was feeling terrible at 8, me's feeling great at 11. Give me a fucking break. There's just feeling this, feeling that. There's no you. There's no glue to it all. It's just verbing. Yeah? It's just like someone set off an avalanche and it's just verbing for 90 years. When it's done, there won't even be an echo or a sound. Just verbing. But see, the claiming implies, the seeing implies there's a seer. Yeah? Now, the narrative is about seer and seeing. It's not about seeing, is it? Why would you need a narrative about what you are? Why do you need a book about consciousness if you're consciousness? Why would you want to study what you are when you're being it? Study what you're not. See what you're not. You don't have to be fucking working on seeing. That's a given. See what you're not and get something clear, all right? Stop being a goal that what you're not knows it will never arrive at. That's why it's willing to sign up. It will. It knows it's never going to arrive at what it is. It knows that. That's why it's comfortable with a lot of spiritual shit. Yeah? If you change the 10-day retreat from fucking, let's say, whatever, Spirit Rock, I used to call it the upper middle way. Very nice food and nice bedding, very classy place. To, let's say, fucking Hoboken, New Jersey, people wouldn't be going on that retreat long. You know what I mean? Sign up for the Hoboken retreat. No, I think I'll pass on that. There'll be the dumpster. They'll be eating from the dumpster between 6 and 7 behind the fucking Italian restaurant in the alley. See you there. Everyone will be walking, meditating. That would go far. And then they have the ones where, all right, we're going to act as if we're homeless, but you know you're not. So 7 days you live on the street, but you know the 8th day you won't be. That's not what homelessness is like. Homeless is, there's no way out. There's not like, oh, it's a 7-day retreat and I'm going to be done in 8 days. That 8 days is going to be your, but I mean, homelessness is like, or like a bottom in drug addiction isn't like you witnessing you're on a bottom.
Right.
You're completely what you're not.
Mm-hmm.
That's the, yeah. Of course you're not that, but you're completely what you're not. All your little strategies hasn't worked. And finally everything collapses and you're just seemingly, you're getting depressed eternally, which you're not. And it's the fear of all fears, and then the possibility of redemption arises. Who would have thunk? Yeah. So, all right, that's it, I think. Any questions?
It's like the same question I asked you in a way 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. You talk a little bit about skillful means, especially if they maybe look a little more complicated than average. You're not just sitting there staring at a wall, but maybe you're doing a few things inside, you know.
Who? Now?
It's just happening.
Oh, skillful means?
Yeah, skillful means for those that it's happening to.
I love skillful means when they arrive at the point of not being needed. That I like. The action figure needs, action figure needs a little tool belt. It's outmatched here. Let's just fucking admit it. So yeah, skillful means have their value. Yeah, I'd much rather have a skillful means if I'm really believing I'm fucked than the philosophical idea I'm not that which is fucked. That doesn't work. Give me watch a movie is better. Netflix. Yeah, it is. So you find the skillful means, but all those things, hopefully, they'll become unnecessary because you'll outgrow the conditions that were causing you to need skillful means. Yeah. They'll just be an outgrown. You don't outgrow. You'll be expressing an outgrowth of something. Yeah. So, but if you need to do something, you better do it. Like if you believe really that you need to meditate to get connected to the whatever, you better fucking meditate. But you don't have to tell me to meditate if I don't believe that. Yeah. But I'm not. Just whatever You're the arbiter of this place in a way. You're the dreaming. So if you have it set up, the only way I can feel connected is to do that, then fucking do that. You know, some people say, oh, I'd really like to see you, Paul. But, you know, there's no Paul to be seen. I said, well, if you really get a lot out of seeing me, I'd see me a lot. I would. I mean, that just seems like a natural move. Like if I enjoyed these talks, I'd come to the talks. Oh, I don't, you know, is it that hard? You know, it's like common sense. Oh, I enjoy the space, but I shouldn't enjoy, you know, I shouldn't need to, give me a fucking break. How many times do you find something you enjoy? Do you want that thing to piss on it? Just fucking enjoy it. It's like, I never sat home, do you think I'm surfing too much? Oh, I think I'm fucking great. I would have surfed as much as possible until the day I couldn't. I would be, oh, could I speak to you? Bill, come here. You think I'm surfing? You're afraid. This is, I like these talks. Yeah. If I didn't have this, I'd probably go see somebody. Yeah, I like satsang. I think it's a nice space, just like I like AA meetings, because I sense a presence there. I mean, the end of investigation. I like it. And then, you know, yeah, I like sitting in my yard, you know, just putzing around. I don't, just follow simple, what's the big deal? Do you think you're that important that you're gonna change everything, you know, by the which way you look down the street? You know, come on. It's just, yeah. Yeah. To me, that's the loss of interest in self. You're not, like, if people ask me how I'm feeling, I don't know how I'm feeling. I haven't checked in a long time, really. I mean, I could tell you if I was really feeling terrible and I was sick as a dog, then I would recognize. But if I'm feeling to a certain point, that's the end of fucking, you know, no more new reports get sent, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not necessary. It's not like minute to minute, you know, Marin City weather. At 11:59, 11:12, 12:01, come on. All right? Day's gonna be pretty good. There you go. Yeah. It's nice to be feeling as if you're not here, because you will be. So sort of get used to it while you're here, the feeling of not being here, because it's going to be a very strong feeling. To the point it won't be a feeling, it'll be not here. What did they used to say? You have to die to yourself, yeah, and then you're reborn. You don't have to do that. There's no self to die to. How about that? You can be reborn tons of times. It was never you anyway. Why? If you're put in a position of neutrality where you already are, yeah, it changes a lot of stuff. See, if you're constantly in a movement and you're trying to get clear about things, yeah, they're not moving, you are. Yeah. Yeah. When this stops, when there's a pause, you'll see things clearly. Blue is blue and red is red. You'll just be clear. And the horse will be in front of the cart, and things will make a sense beyond the mental logic, or actually before the mental logic. You'll just feel assured of something you can't put your finger on. But you'll have the deepest assurance of it than anything you've ever met. You'll just, yeah, there'll be a, yeah, so let's go.
Hey,
What?
I don't know if you want this one. So,
Oh, we
you
have to
want to
test
do
the
this,
bathroom.
you want to do this here Wednesdays?
Not here, no, it'll be at my house.
Is that okay?
Wednesday at the church is canceled for March, the one in the city. They're not having any gatherings there.
Yeah.
So Wednesday night, we'll have it at the house if anyone wants to show up at my house.
That's really generous of you, thank you.
Yeah. No, I love, you know, I like community, so. And then Saturday, next Saturday, I think we'll have it at our house up there.
Oh,
Because
great, if the weather.
we won't have the kids. No, it's just because the kids are busy.
Oh, I mean, either way, whether or not.
Yeah, whether or not we'll have it at the house.
Okay, excellent.
There's more 3-foot space there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be in a like a Pope-mobile plexiglass speaking.
Thanks for the enjoyment,
Thank
babe.
you.
Thanks for the enjoyment, babe.